Welcome to the Dealmaker Catalyst podcast, and I'm your host, Jason Seward. And today we have my buddy, Mr. Brian Biernat. How you doing, Brian?
Hey, I'm doing great, Jason. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, man, it's exciting. Let me go ahead and get into an intro, and then we're going to have a very exciting topic to talk about today. So today's guest is Brian Biernat from Jackson, Mississippi. After spending 28 years as a telecommunications executive, Brian discovered real estate investing in 2017. By building a portfolio of furnished rentals, he was able to achieve financial freedom and leave his W-2 career behind. Today, we're going to dive into how he made that transition, why furnished rentals became his vehicle of choice, and what investors can learn from his journey. Brian, again, welcome to the show, my man.
Hey, thanks, Jason. Excited to be here and excited to share. So.
Yes, sir. Well, I'm very excited because we're going to talk about a topic today that I've dabbled with a little bit inside of our portfolio. We have a couple midterm rentals that we rent out to insurance displacements and contractors and stuff like that. But that's just a fraction of what you have going on. So you've built expertise around this. You've got the reputation as the man in this space. So I tell you, you have a name it. So what I find interesting, and I reference my other podcast, which I'm taking a break from currently, but I reference that quite a bit, the whole burning the ships mentality. And it sounds like, just reading your intro there, you had a similar path when it came to having a very successful W-2 career, but finding something else that you were passionate about that ended up being the vehicle. So let's start there in your journey and talk through that transition, where you were to where you ended up getting to.
Well, like anything in life happened. We ended up relocating to the area. I took a job with a telecom provider here. Shortly after coming on board, probably within a few months, I was diagnosed with prostate cancer. And of course, that was kind of a wake up, right? And then got through that, praise the Lord, healed me. But then 4 months after that, my wife got hit riding her bike on the Natchez Trace Parkway. And so in 2016, we had some life things come up. And, my prayer was always, hey, I want this to be my last telecom journey, right? I was 49 when I came here, and I was like, I don't want to keep moving around. I want this to be the last one. Little did I know how we would end up in real estate. It's crazy, right? That was never even on the radar. But through those two events, it got us thinking about, we really need to build something. We need to do something that if something happens to me, yeah, we had a 401k, we have life insurance, we had some other stuff, but, really wanted to have something that we could do together. And we found real estate. And I don't remember the exact day. I just know that, somewhere in 2017 we started, and I was always a listener of podcasts and research and looking at things. And, we found a couple things that interested us, and we got involved with wholesaling in October 2017. And, it took us like 10, 11 months to do our first wholesale deal. So we're not quitters. We take action. But that's kind of how we started. That's how we started. And I got the burn when I went to an event in Orlando. You got to be as Chuck Glover says, you got to be in the room. So we were in the room, and that's the first time I met Tom Nardone. He doesn't remember, but he was a speaker there, and he's a good friend of mine now. But there, we were at that event, and when I saw these young 20-somethings making 2, 3, 4, 5, 600,000+ a year wholesale, and I looked at my wife and I said, "This is crazy. They have zero business experience. I've got 20 something." I'm like, "What are we doing? We're not doing the right thing here." And it's just, I wasn't upset. It just gave me a burn, a burn like never before. So anyway, the burn was, if they can do this and not have a job, certainly I have enough with my background, and certainly we can do this. And of course, as we found out, we had to do some reading, and we had to do some growing in areas that, we didn't, I had more baggage too, right, at 49 than someone at 24. So, but that was how we started. That's what got us into that.
Yep. So you started wholesaling, and
we did.
Did you build that into something, or was there a quick transition into the furnished rentals? I'd love to hear
So,
how that all went down.
oh, so we started wholesaling, and it got us into business. We did some deals, but it wasn't until 2019 when I was out running. I used to run, and I was listening to a podcast with Joe McCall interviewing a guy by the name of Brian Page, and Brian would master lease furnished properties and put them on Airbnb, and I was like, okay, wow, that's pretty interesting. Talked about how much cash he was making, and his goal was to make 10,000 net so he could just go do whatever he wanted to do. So I listened to his podcast. I sent it to Amy. I said, "You need to listen to this." And as soon as she listened to it, she got done. She goes, I think we found our thing. I mean, I can get behind this. I mean,
Yeah,
she supported, I worked the W-2. She drove for dollars. We sent mailers. She got all the leads, got the information. And that night after dinner, spending time with each other, and our youngest son was still at home, he'd go do his homework, and, 7:30, I'd go in my office and start banging the phones for an hour and a half. Right. And we did that. And I still, to this day now, I've been job free for 5 years. I still can't. I don't know how we did it. I don't know how we made the time, right? Like, how in the world did we do that? But anyway, we did it. And but we got in we got into short term rentals, and specifically through master leasing, right? So we had some money, we had great credit, we had some other funds. So, we were able to master lease our way in. I think at one point we had 16 of them, and then, over time we transitioned and bought more properties, got rid of some of the ones. I think today we have 4 master leases left. I think we own like 8 or 9, and then the other ones we have a different kind of master lease where we actually host for other investors like yourself.
gotcha. All right, so let's back up a little bit because probably a lot of the audience understands exactly what you're talking about with the master lease, but probably a handful out there don't exactly know what that is. So could you describe the mechanics of a master lease?
Yes, yes. So master lease, some people call it rental arbitrage.
Yep.
So you're a landlord, you have a property. I approach you, I give you my 30-second elevator pitch. I'm going to be your best tenant. I want to be able to furnish the property. I'm going to do up to 250 of maintenance. I'll take care of that. Don't worry about it. I'll pay you on the first. I'm going to have this thing cleaned professionally after every stay, and I'm going to be your best tenant, right? And honestly, I never really had anyone turn me down. Very few no's, right? But effectively, you're signing their lease. You're adding in a few clauses to protect yourself, from ordinances that would pass or other things. You want to get permissions to do things with the landlord. And then, you are the tenant for that property. It's control of the property without ownership,
Yeah. Yeah. And then,
is a way to look at it.
yeah, and then you're essentially subleasing it, if you will.
Right, we're subletting, yeah, so we're renting it for the month, and, as they say, we're renting it by the day. Although we don't do dailies, we do the minimum 4 or 5 nights, but most of our clientele now is 30 plus. But yes, exactly right.
Yes, I've got a good buddy, and he's out in California, but he has also scaled a pretty big business doing this, and doing this exact thing. And they're just like anything else. There are risks with it that
Yeah,
come along.
absolutely.
Yeah, especially like one that he was hit with uh pretty hard was it was a, I might get the numbers wrong, but it was like a 80 unit apartment complex near the water.
Mm.
um well, he got control of about 75% of the complex, where he was arbitraging like you're talking about. Well, the seller um sold the complex, and that just pulled. But the new owner obviously didn't allow for this, so he got to ride out whatever leases he was under. But and
That's
that's
a
and
risk.
skin you hit to the bottom line. So but
That's
he was at that point, he wasn't diversified. It was a lot into that one basket. So yeah.
Yeah, we've always targeted smaller landlords, and predominantly we did have 4 duplexes at one point. We just got rid of the last one in May. But we focus on single family homes. I don't like shared walls unless I own both sides.
Yeah.
That's just my personal conviction. I do have one master lease with a client that we host, and my advice to her was, we can do it, but just understand we don't. The guy on their side, we don't control him, and so if he becomes an issue, you're going to have to deal with him. That was so I put that in our agreement with them that typically we handle everything, but
Yeah.
because of this common wall, I just said, hey, I'm only going to do so much, and then after that, I'm going to turn them over to you, and you can take his phone calls.
Right.
So,
Eh,
but for the most part, it's always been single family homes, smaller providers, and we do even like 2-year leases.
yeah.
We have
Yeah.
2-year leases right now in place.
But it sounds like the evolution ended up being where
Right.
you're getting away from that model and more under the ownership model, or
Yeah.
essentially property managing for other folks that are doing this, right?
We host for other clients, and we bought and we purchased our own. And over the last 3 years, we bought a lot of houses in the last 3 years, but personally, I think we've bought probably, I don't know, 15, 16 of our own. And we have one right now we're turning up. It's the Marblehead project. It's been on Facebook. We'll be finishing the furnishings probably this week. It'll be ready for a client next week at some point. Um, but yeah, it's a 4.2.5. And like I said, we learned the basics of the business, how to buy off market. And this particular house was bought on market. It was on the MLS, and we just negotiated it down, and the numbers are fantastic. I mean, it's like, I think we're all in for 198 and some change at appraised for 310, and the cash out number is going to be like 40K. So it's going to
Yeah.
be phenomenal. And the house will do 6,600 a month,
Yeah. That's
and we'll
great.
get it leased up. And I mean, so you get all the benefits, right? We discovered cost segregation about a year and a half ago, and wow, what a tool that is. So, another topic for another time. But
It yeah.
yes, we
We won't go into that right now,
no
like
no
you
no
said, because it's
we
read up
yeah
another hour. But a cost segregation piece, that whole world being opened up to me when I left that my W-2 career and realized that like now I'm a real estate professional and there's so many things I can do with that.
oh
Yeah,
yeah
from
same
a
here.
tax standpoint.
But we like we find the off market deals. We have I, I've never been I've never been. I don't like wholesaling. Okay, we didn't build a machine like some of these guys have, and I know plenty of people that have been very successful. It just wasn't our thing. But we know how to find deals. I have my phone rings and buzzes constantly. You start buying properties, people know how to find you.
Yep.
They look in the land roll. They go, okay, this guy's buying.
Right.
And when you can, we've been able to raise about 3 million in private money over the last 3 years. So we typically close in 5 to 7 days.
Yeah.
So we know what we're doing, and we're not looking to necessarily really grow our furnished rental business right now. We're going to kind of maintain what we have, and we have enough. We have 27 doors, I think. And so we're just kind of going to optimize, and we have a lot of systems and people in place and processes, but my wife's really getting into AI, and we're going to try to do more with AI. But the nuts and bolts is finding the property, rehabbing the property, right? Having good teams, getting it done right, and then getting it furnished, and then refi it and get that thing making money, right? Get that thing out there in the pipeline. The pipeline and the marketing is very, very key.
So let's dig in a little bit. So at the end of the day, what you just kind of walked through, it's essentially the Burr strategy,
It's the verb.
except that rent piece of it is short-term rentals and you're furnishing the house, so you got the expenses of that. So let's let's kind of walk through, and I know it would take us an entire day to get like into the weeds, and we're going to talk about how folks can do that towards the end of the episode. But for now, let's keep it high level of like start to finish. First of all, you got to source deals. So I would imagine you guys are using the same strategies to find deals that anybody does, like wholesalers and stuff
Yeah,
like that. But
absolutely.
what are you specifically like? Do you have a specific buy box, or things like that that
I
y'all
do.
target? Okay.
Yeah, we target 3.2 and 4.2 or bigger because we do have a couple co-living houses. And I have some bigger furnished rentals. I have a couple 6 and 7 bedrooms. In fact, we have a client coming for an insurance displacement to our 7.3 for the month of July and maybe August. My wife's over there right now taking care of it, touching up some things. But anyway, yeah, everything that goes out is 3.2, 4.2 or above. We only buy in certain zip codes right now in Jackson. ones where we feel like, we've been successful with our model. Um, and we're gonna do some build to rent this year on 3 lots that I acquired with a house last year. Um, it's all about relationships, Jason, as you know. So everyone we meet, we just try to treat them right and do the right thing. And people bring us deals unsolicited. They'll call me, they'll text me, they'll send me DMs on Facebook. They'll walk up to me, or they'll say, "Hey, we'll start talking." They'll say, "What do you do?" I'll have a card with me, and they go, "Oh, I've got a house I need to sell." And so I mean, I spend $0 on marketing.
Yeah.
I don't spend any money on marketing, and that's how we find them. And then I get some MLS stuff. I mean, honestly, this deal we did at Marblehead, it was on the MLS in mid-December. It was out there for I think 180, and I made the guy an offer. My broker called the agent. The agent said, "Hey, come look at this house." It was a 1960s house, huge, 2,700 square foot, 42 and a half, great house, quiet neighborhood, Northeast Jackson. Family, the parents passed away, kids had the house, two of them were here, one of out of state. Anyway, long and short, they didn't take my first offer. They called me back in February. Of course, the number went down. So the number goes down because I had to come in and look at some things, and we found some problems. But we made him a cash offer on the spot for I think 115K. You're dying. You're going, where in the world can you buy a house like that? Jackson, Mississippi, brother. Come on. Anyway, we bought the house, and like I said, we're going to be in it for about 198. But that deal came from just my relationship with my realtor and her broker.
Yeah.
And we were doing a lot of turnkeys about 2 years ago. We did probably 30 or something houses over a 2 year, 2.5 year stretch. And they got he knew I was buying those houses, so he would just, hey, I got a house, I got 30,000, I got a house here for Brian. Hey, I got a so that's how we find our deals. So
So are you
just put yourself out
when
there.
you yeah, when you approach them, or not the people, but you're looking at a house, okay? So like, let's say we mostly do in our portfolio, and we've done over 100 of them, but the Burr strategy where we're putting mostly long-term renters in there, but
Okay.
it's pretty easy to back into the number. We can figure out the ARV. We want to be all in at 70% or less than that.
Yep.
We
Us
want
too.
to we want to be able to pull our cash out when we refinance, and we want to have a door by door basis of a minimum $200 net per month cash flow. So those are my general metrics. We target everything better than that, but that's kind of like, if we can't achieve that, we're not even going to look any further. So, and that's how we back into our offers. How are you guys? Give me general numbers on
Okay.
how you're looking at it when y'all
So
direct.
so when we're underwriting a deal, obviously, unless I'm doing a refi and something that's already been a furnished rental for 12 plus months and has a history, and I do have some of those we're going to do because I have some loans that are not great that are out there, and houses are doing great. But if it's a brand new house, it has to qualify as a long term rental as far as DSCR loan ratio. And so it works. The numbers work, and we make sure it works as a rental. We know it'll rent for this house will rent for 2,300. I think we're at a 1.4 DSCR. But the beauty of it is, the example I gave at Dealmaker was my Whitestone house. I think we were all in at like, I don't know, 70%. I think we ended up getting 5,000 back at closing. The house appraised for 235. The rent comp I think was maybe 1850, but we're renting the house for 6,500. And the number, the math I showed, right? So 6,500 is just slightly under 220 a night. But we had a contractor team in there for 4 months. They just left yesterday, and now we have someone else coming for multiple months in about a week. And so that house nets. So you talk about, as a traditional rental, which we have some of those, my bogey is $300. On a long-term rental, on a furnished rental, if it's a 4 bedroom, my minimum cash flow I want is 2 grand. This house is bigger than a 4.2. We put up we put up a wall and made 2 more bedrooms. This house cash flows at 4,700 a month.
It's fantastic. Are you guys, when you look at them, like a plan B, kind of as you're looking at the projections, do you say, okay, we got to make sure that as a long term rental, this works in case there's some kind of it doesn't work as a furnished rental, or there's some kind of uh, issue with the county or the town that they don't let you operate that way anymore, are you making sure these at least break even as a long-term rental before you jump into it?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So we look at it and say, okay, as a long-term rental, this thing around for X, our number is Y. So we're at like 450, I think, on a long-term rental for this one. So yes, it would work. Um, we also have a couple co-living houses where we do, room rentals. We look at that as an option as well, because that's another way that we can make it work. We do have, you have to know your ordinances. So we always check with people. We know there's a un, unrelated occupant limit in Jackson, right? They're pretty easy on the other stuff. The 30 plus is really kind of the Wild West. There's not a lot of regulations or stipulations. Most of the people are afraid of under 30, right? They're afraid of the alleged Airbnb party, right? But we've taken steps in our systems and our processes to eliminate, I'll say, to minimize to the greatest extent possible by putting additional barriers or obstacles. So people have to sign this agreement, or they have to do this security hold, or this, that, and the other. So does it 100% prevent stuff? No, nothing does, but it does weed out potential bad actors from coming in.
Gotcha. All right. As far as financing, and this is a question I'm genuinely curious about because, like I mentioned, we have a few midterm rentals, but they were long term rentals for years. We already had good solid DSCR debt on it, and we just have converted them into midterm. They've done well, but starting out knowing that the use of this property is going to be a furnished rental, short term in nature, does that bottle you up a little bit on the long term financing, or DSCR lenders looking at what it would do as a long term rental, and that's it?
So if it's a brand new house, like this Marblehead house that we're talking about, so we're supposed to close on that today or tomorrow. So they had to look at the long term rent only because we had no history with as a furnished rental. So I have another house 5 minutes from where I live, where it's had. I'm actually gonna. I think we're working with Katie Capital on it. We're gonna do a DSCR on that one, but they're gonna take. I sent them all my data. I have 3 years worth of data, right, as a furnished rental, and they will take that. I think they require at least 12 months. So that house does between 34 and 3600 a month as a two
Okay.
bedroom, one bath. So they will use that number. The rent number on that one is like 1400. It would still work, but it's way better at 34 to 36. And they'll use that because we have at least 12 months or more of furnished rental booking data, right? Where we can
Right.
show that house.
Yeah.
We can show it.
I can't get any further without shouting out Rick Bressler with Katie Capital. So
We like
yeah,
him. Love Rick Barry.
them little eh,
He spoke here.
fantastic.
He spoke here. Yeah, he spoke here in March at Dealmaker Jackson.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, he's great,
Which,
great
by the way, we host.
human being. And
If you're in Jackson, we host Dealmaker Jackson.
there you go. Yep. So, all right. So now, how about the shorter term financing? You mentioned you have some private capital, some private investors. Is that how you guys are funding the purchases, the rehabs, the furnishing of it, and then financing them out through the long term?
Exactly right. So, probably back in 2023, 2022, 2023, we started doing some turnkey stuff. And I just put stuff on Facebook. I just put projects on Facebook, videos, and I had a couple people that were funding me. I had about a couple 100,000, and we started with that. And between then and let's say, I don't know, 2025, we will raise $3 million, close to 3 million in private capital. And these are people that I've worked with. These are people that were friends or word of mouth. One of was my flooring guy recommended me to his brother and his buddy. And some of it's cash, some of it's IRA, some of it's 401, but it's everybody that either has been watching us or known. And I didn't ask for a single penny.
Yeah.
Like they just said, "Hey, how do I get involved?" I went to talk to an individual about how to get some better traction with some of the insurance displacements, and we never even got to talk about it because he was too excited about what we were doing and wanted to fund our deals. And so, we told him what we would pay and interest and points and kind of the terms. And Yeah, I use one attorney, and he does all the paperwork, and everyone's comfortable with it. And it just makes it real easy when you don't have to deal with a bank, and you know that I've got people asking me right now, "Hey, where's your next deal? Hey, where's the next deal?" What? So I'm always working on it. I'm always working on the next deal.
Yep.
But
This
that's
is
pretty much how we've done it. I mean,
it's a great lesson, because I mean you're talking about something. I mean, we're in a whole different niche as far as we're lenders ourselves, but we run a fund, so it requires investor capital. Same as you. You look back for the last 4 years we've been marketing. It's all about just what we do. We're not marketing to investors, but they're getting curiosity through what we're doing. They're seeing it have a positive impact and that we're growing. So they're curious. So all of our investor money has just come from people curious and reaching
yeah,
out. Hey, what are y'all doing again? What are y'all? Can we get involved with this? And it's exactly what you're talking about.
yep.
I believe that, there is a more aggressive approach, but that turns people off in the long run. When you're steady just beating people, hey, invest in this awesome opportunity I have. No, if it's awesome enough, people will be curious and they'll come on board. So
People will come watch something burn,
right,
right? They'll come to the fire to watch it burn.
I
I
love
mean, it's integrity plus execution, right? If they know you can do what you say you're going to do, and we've had some deals not go great, right? And we've had to get creative with some things, and we've had to pay extension fees multiple months, and but all of our people know that at the end of the day, we're going to do the right thing. We always communicate, over communicate. Hey, this is going on. Hey, this is the closing got pushed because of this, or this is going on. As long as you're a lender, so as long as you're hearing from me, and it's not smoke, it's trick. Like you're okay, right? You know where things are at. It's when people go silent, that's where the problems start.
yep, 100%.
That's where you go, oh boy, silence is not going.
We deal with it every day. We've got 100 loans out there. The ones that aren't talking to us are the ones we know something's going on. So, but I, I am curious, back to the underwriting component of it, because I'm just like, again, the ones we have, we convert it to this. So, like, we did not underwrite them as midterm or short furnished rentals in the beginning. So, there was no component of underwriting the cost of furnishing the property. There was no thought going into rehab of we need this lighting and this here and TVs in each bedroom for the people staying and blah, blah, blah. So, it was none of that. So, you guys are buying with this model in mind. Um, do you have kind of a set number of this many square feet, this many bed and baths is going to cost me X amount to furnish, or do you make that custom to each property depending on location, clientele, stuff like
No, we kind of have a we kind of have an we kind of know, like, for a 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom, what we're going to end up spending on furnishings. And you mentioned something, and I'll just throw it out there. We don't put TVs in every bedroom. It's not
that? Okay.
required, right? We have one in the main room, might have one in the master. If we have extra TVs in our storage area, we might put some out there. But we have kind of a general, we have a checklist. We have, a sheet that has all the furnishings, all the links, and basically with a 2 bedroom house, it's going to be about, X amount, 8 to 10K. This is what it's going to be, right? And she goes through, and then things show up. We have our team go in there, build everything. I'm out of the bed building business. I'm out of the back breaking, none of that. That's all hired out, and our team will go in, and they'll do they'll put all the linens and everything together and make it look like it has to look. And then Amy will do the final, or maybe Carrie will do the final walkthrough. Carrie's our assistant. They'll do the final walkthrough, look at it, and go, yeah, it's ready to go. And then pictures come in. David does a great job. Once the pictures are done, then we're ready to rock and roll. So, and the house is clean, obviously, before that.
Yeah.
But
And then,
but we do have that kind of. And look, things have gone up tremendously since we started in 2019.
yeah.
So, you know, but we have different ways to buy. We have different ways to buy furnishings. We use other things. Cards, IULs, our own cash now. Because we have a viable business that's been doing well. So we can do that on our own now. But we had to get creative in the early days
But
and
that
then
that
pay it back.
furnishing that furnishing piece essentially is just an additional line item when it comes to the rehab portion of it, right? Got to fix the route, put flooring in, or do you guys
No,
deal with
it's all
it?
in the yeah. We don't include it. We have it separate. We have
Okay,
it separate. We have it
okay,
separate. So we pretty much because the furnishing pieces can be so. I mean, it can vary. So we have a house, the Whitestone property. We were going to do it as a pad split. Decided to do it as contract housing, and we just did full beds in all the rooms. And the garage was already enclosed, made it look nicer. And we put some couches, some great couches she found on Marketplace. They look really good. A table and chair, big 65-inch TV on the wall. And the guys that just stayed there were like, man, this is a great house. When we come back, we're booking with you. And we're booking direct, not on Airbnb.
right.
But
Yeah,
yeah, so we do the furnishing separate. I mean, we could try to do that, I guess, but I just didn't want to because it can vary so much depending on what we want to do. Um, there's properties where we have some really nice leather furniture that doesn't go in every house, so we keep it separate. We have a separate way to take care of that. So I just really leave our funding to acquisition and rehab plus and then money back and interest in points to our lenders.
got it. All right. So then comes the management piece of it. Traditional rentals, I get done, I'm either going to manage it in-house for under a 12-month lease or I'm going to hire it out to a property manager. This is probably, I would imagine, the the most important piece to get right when you're having revolving clients coming through or or 30-day clients or 4-day clients, whatever it is. I do you guys It sounds like you guys have all of that in house and manage it yourselves,
We do.
right? Yeah.
We do. We have cleaners. We have runners that go behind the cleaners and they do a lot of the legwork that we used to do back in the day. And then as of January of 25, we hired a full-time assistant to take on a lot of the things that Amy was doing to free her up. So, and then we have contractors, obviously. And let me just say, our contractors are fantastic. Like these are guys that I've used on projects, but not only that, they also support this business. So, uh, my plumbers, like when I call them, like I go to the top of the list. Like they
Mhm.
put everyone else after. If I call, I get first priority. Like people are amazed at how well hot water tank went out at 8 o'clock on Sunday morning and by noon it was done. They're like, how do you do that? I go, we have great people. We agree what the pricing is up front. Every call out is not a negotiation, and we pay them on time. And I hate referring guys out because I hear that they're too expensive or then I hear he didn't pay me for 2 weeks and I'm like nope, don't ask me for unless you're going to pay what my guy charges and you're going to pay him timely, like within at least within one day, then I'm not going to get him out. But that's key in the furniture rental business because if air conditioner, we have a guy right now going to Clinton House. People came in this morning and said, "Hey, the air conditioning's warm." In fact, he got there 30 minutes ago and he's already working on it. So
Yeah.
he was going to go do something else. I said, "Hey, go here." So, the nice thing about the business is it's mobile, right? It's you
Right.
can do it with a phone, text. I mean, but you got to have good people and you got to have good, solid cleaners because when people walk into a house, when they drive up, you got about 30 to 45 seconds. They're gonna size up that property. If the outside looks unkept, if it looks like there's deferred maintenance, if the grass hasn't been cut in 3 weeks, that's not a good thing. They're gonna walk in, and if it doesn't look and smell right, they're out of there. It's not going to work. So we tell our people when they walk in, pretend you're the person walking in. Would you want to stay here?
Yeah. Do you guys use VAs at all for any piece of the business?
We have a VA that handles our website. He handles our deal maker stuff. He's going to handle our podcast stuff that we're starting this week. He also he does a bunch of different things, but yes, he maintained the website. Our original VA built the website,
Yeah.
so he does all the SEO and all that stuff, all the back
Right.
end stuff.
Got it. I guess at scale, So like if you were to take what you have, and because this sounds like, I mean, you've kept everything pretty local. It sounds like to you. Is that
We have
correct?
we have two properties in Okeechobee, Florida that we host for another client. But really, what really I think I know where you're going. So what really helped us scale was when we went from when we added the channel manager. We added owner res. So owner res is the channel manager. It is the boss of any other channel that a booking can come in. And we use owner res. There's other options out there, but we like owner res. When we implemented owner res in 2021, I looked at Amy and said, okay, we have zero, like we have zero handcuffs. Like we could add we've had as many as 33 doors. We could adding doors is not going to be a problem. Like this thing is just, and I don't know how people do it without it. To be honest, I mean, I have access on my phone. And, insurance clients will call us and say, "Hey, family's displaced," and I can respond within 5 minutes.
Right.
I can go look at the calendar. I know our pricing. I go to our Google Drive, and I just send them a text and find, here's the link to the property from the website. Here's the monthly guest fee, or here's the monthly guest amount for the agreement. Here's all the fees. Here's the deposit. And like in our business, like if you're not, it's all about speed. If you're not fast and efficient on the front end to get the booking, you're not going to get it. They're going to come to somebody else.
Yep.
And it's like I tell people, if you're having to go, I gotta wait till I get home, look at my computer, I gotta go Airbnb, I gotta look at my spreadsheet. You lost. You're
Yeah.
done. I'm gonna beat you every day and twice on Sunday.
Yep. Couldn't agree more. It's not that hard. Like it's not that
It's not hard
hard.
at all.
Everybody's like, I don't want to be bothered. Well, it doesn't take but literally 30 seconds to read what they sent you and respond. Like it's
So,
quick, or call or whatever.
and the thing is, when you're dealing with displaced clients, like specialists don't have time to be on the phone. They're going to look at their email and they're going to look at their text. And, that's why you have to structure emails a certain way when you send out stuff to them proactively to market your properties. Uh, but I have people on speed dial that text me regularly, and they say, you know what, you're the only person in the area that responds like as fast as you do. And I'm like, amen.
It's one of the, because we operate the same way in our lending company. Like we want to be the most communicative, the most responsive. Like it's
Yep.
simple. Just
Yep.
answer the phone or respond to the text and the email. Doesn't take long, and we hear that say it's to us. It's a super natural, easy thing to do, but to hear that nobody else responds like this, it's kind of sad in one aspect, but it gives us a leg up. And it sounds like
It's
y'all are
not
the same way.
it is not hard to differentiate yourself. And it's basics, right? It's basic blocking and tackling. I coached football for years, and people one year we'd have a great team, and they're like, "Well, how come you're not so great this year?" I said, "Have you seen our line? We don't have any." I said, "When everyone football comes down to blocking and tackling, real estate comes down to blocking and tackling. If you block well and tackle well, you're going to win. You can run any play. It doesn't matter what the play or formation. But if you don't block it, you don't tackle, you're going to lose."
Yeah. The
My
base.
football analogy. My
Yeah.
football analogy.
I love that analogy because everybody tries to, and some people are successful with this, but most of their energy goes into trying to recreate the wheel. Like just
Yeah.
block and tackle. It's that
Yeah.
simple. And then find nuance on the fringes to spend your energy on. But at the core of it, it's been proven, and it's not like every niche is a little bit nuanced as well, but in general, it's been proven for centuries that you work hard, you lock in on one thing, don't chase everything,
That's
and
right.
you do it with a good attitude, good effort, communicate well. Everything else is going to work over time.
I agree. I agree. And even like in our traditional rentals, we're very responsive. I don't manage those properties. I have a guy that's giving me a great percentage to manage them. And I don't know that business. So I just have them take care of it.
Yeah.
And it works out great. It works out great for us.
Yeah.
So, but
So
when problems come up, we have our guys, they'll say, "Hey, do you want to?" I said, "Yeah, I'm going to use my guys." I said, "Just get them in the door." And they're like, "Okay, fine." In fact, now even my property management company, he's like, "Hey, can we use your plumber?" I said, he has his own business. I said, "Here's his name, call him." I said, he does a great job. So,
yeah,
yeah, sure.
awesome. So a couple things as we start wrapping things up. You mentioned your podcast that you guys are literally launching as we speak or this week.
Yeah, yeah, we did the intro stuff this morning, and tomorrow we have our first guest.
And Brickfolio, right?
The brick folio. Yep. The brick folio. Daniel Anderson, right over.
Or by the time this comes out and everybody's listening to it, about y'all will have a couple episodes out, so we'll be sure to link that in the show notes. For
Absolutely.
starters, and then the second thing, you know, we've hit on all of this very quickly and kind of gone on a few tangents, just to give folks a general idea of what it is you do, and how they can get involved. But the reality is, just like most any guest I have on here, it goes way deeper than what we've covered on the surface here. So you guys do offer coaching and resources that can help people kind of dive deeper and put together a plan to try to implement into their real estate business. So if you want to speak to that a little bit and how folks can connect with you for that.
Yeah, we started the coaching program in March, Furnished Rental Profits, and we have a live training from May that's out there. We're going to do another live in July, but we're coaching we're coaching students on what we do. You know, we're focused on those bigger targeted clients that pay better. You know, the insurance displays, the contractors, the relocation, the corporate clients. You know, we have we call it the four pillars. You know, the house, the furnishings, the pipeline of marketing, and then the last thing is systems, right? Um, and it doesn't really matter where you are in the stage. I mean, if you're struggling, let me just put it this way: 2019, 2020, you could throw a property on Airbnb and it just printed money, right? We all know that. In Jackson, we had 270 doors on Airbnb in 2019. Today, there's like over 600. So, you know, you have to have a way to differentiate, right? And so, you know, our model will work anywhere, right? So, I mean, you need some population, probably at least 50,000, but for the most part, everyone has fires, everyone has floods, everyone has storm damages. Some people have ice, you know, frozen lines. So, and everyone has projects going on, it seems like, contractors. So, you know, our commitment is one-on-one coaching, and we're going to help deliver, you know, a sizable, you know, booking for you in the first 90 to 120 days. So,
Love it.
and it's not a guarantee, but you know, we're gonna do our absolute best to get you there, right?
It's so funny because I see so many people get like big eyes and spend the money for a coaching or mastermind or mentorship program, and they think just writing that check makes it a guarantee that it's going to happen. No matter what, you have to implement the things you're being taught. You can't just be taught them and they're like, okay, it's going to happen, you know?
My
But
what I tell them is I can only guarantee one thing. I can only guarantee my effort, and you're going to get my A game. You're going to get my absolute best. I cannot guarantee yours because I don't know if life's going to come up and hit you, and you're going to be like, "Oh, I can't do this," or "Oh." I said, as long as you follow the plan, you will. We're nothing great. We did what other people taught us, and we just took action, right? We
yeah,
just took
I mean,
action, and it wasn't always the best, but it worked.
but you kicked the conversation off with talking about you went wholesaling almost a year with not a lot of traction, but you're the point of that
10 months before we did a deal. Yeah.
right. And most people go the first 2 months of marketing, don't get a deal under contract. Oh,
They
this isn't
quit.
for me. You literally, I mean, so that is just, efforts compound if you keep coming back, and that is
That's right.
proven just about in every area of life. So
Exactly.
what I'll do is, again, do y'all have a link or website to the coaching program that we can put down in the show notes as well?
Furnished rental profits / live.
Okay.
We'll do that. They can also reach out directly to me on Facebook, um, or my wife, and we can get you in touch. I do have a setter that's working social media pretty active right now. So some people listening to this may have been contacted. So
Yeah.
if they responded to our market, if they responded to our social media, they're more than likely talking to her already about stuff. So,
Nice.
but
Sounds
yeah,
good.
we're
So we'll
excited about
get
that.
all those. Yeah, we'll get all those links down there. And last thing, I just kind of want to congratulate you because I know you're excited about it, but it'll be already have happened by the time this comes out. But next week, y'all are hosting your first deal maker down in Jackson, correct?
Well, no, we've had Dealmaker going for 18 months.
Okay, so
So yeah, you think
yeah,
Mary Hart is launching hers next week,
that's
and
right.
Jim's going there. Yeah,
Yeah.
Jim's actually coming here on the 16th to
Okay.
speak at Dealmaker Jackson, and Leon Johnson is going to come up with him. But we're going to have Jim in the studio to do our podcast, do his podcast with us on the 16th. So that's going to be awesome.
So my only connection to Jackson is I worked for Farm Bureau Insurance for like 17 years, and
We're right where they're at.
yeah, our corporate offices or the life insurance side and the financial is down. So I would come a couple times a year down to Jackson
It's
to
right off
do
Highway
that.
220, off Interstate 220.
Yeah, wasn't much to do. That it was a great corporate office, but outside of that, well, we hit the same restaurants and bar pretty much every night. So it was but yeah, it's a interesting place, and it sounds like you guys have planted your roots there and really gotten some good stuff going on. And I appreciate you coming on to share that with us, Brian.
It's very nice of you to say, and thank you so much for having me on, Jason.
Yes, sir. We'll talk soon. That wraps up this episode of the Dealmaker Catalyst. If you want to keep learning from elite operators and plug into a national community that lives this stuff every day, check out Dealmaker Catalyst. Make sure you subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with someone who's serious about leveling up. And we'll see you on the next Dealmaker Catalyst.